Hello, this is Rima Rafe with the Rafe Group, and it is Real Talk live with Rima. It's Friday morning. We're here with Frank Donato with Monarch Title. Frank Donato's been in the envelope for almost 30 years. He's been in the title business for 30 years. And Frank, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background first so people get to know you more?
Okay, so my family moved up here in Antelope Valley, 1977, and I was going to school. And from there, I was commuting to school and college. And back in the 80s, after I got out of college, I went into the title insurance business, and I've been in it ever since. Seen lots of growth up here in this area, especially from Santa Cruz Valley all the way up to Roseman area. So the business has been the housing market up here has been great, very affordable, and it's been a privilege to work in the title industry those years up here in this area, and of course meeting people like yourself who are just getting into business and have grown as fast as you have. So my background, I'm also on the state directors board of known as the Antelope Valley Eastern Water Agency. So I know a lot about the growth and the future growth of the Antelope Valley. Water is everything now today. We hear it every day in the news. So I can, of course, help you and your clients. The direction they might be going into, what would be the pros and cons in development and things like that.
Okay. So being in the real estate side of it, with title comes up on a regular basis with transaction. Can you tell us this morning what's title all about? What is title?
Okay, title insurance is an interesting creature because it's different than other insurances. When you buy real estate, you will, from the time you close that escrow, going backwards, you're insured if anything had happened prior to, versus a home insurance or car insurance. From the time you buy the car, you're going forward. So fire insurance, you're buying once you close the escrow, you're going forward on the property, and if you buy an automobile, you're going forward. But in the title insurance, we insure and protect you going backwards. And some of the things we insure you with, first of all, the title insurance protects home buyers and the mortgage lenders against defects or problems with title on the property where it's transferred. So you know who the owner was, and going forward, you're made sure that the title is clean, you being the new property owner. So if there's any issues or anything like that, the title company will be responsible for paying the specific legal damages depending on the policy.
Okay. And can a property in California be purchased without title insurance?
The answer is yes, it can be. But here's the dilemma. Title insurance is required for nearly all mortgage loans in the state of California. So you're not going to get a loan without having title insurance. This special type of insurance carrier, a one-time cost. We only charge you one time. That's the end of it. And it protects you, like I said, going from anything critical against you as title claims or undisclosed items. One of the things that people would be property taxes. So if property taxes for some reason were missed with the prior owner, and I am now the new owner of the property, and I get the bill, I can go to the assessor's office and say, I was not the owner of this time period, and now they will remove that from my tax roll and put it on the prior seller, and they will eventually catch up with him and make him pay the taxes. So in California, when it comes to title insurance, you're not going to get a loan of basically even hard money without getting a title policy.
Got it. And what does the consumer buy? Basically, the buyer, when purchasing a property, need to look for in the title report and the preliminary report, what we call it. What is the main things that the buyer needs to be aware of in the title report? Because some languages are kind of hard to understand for the consumers. So what's the major thing that a buyer should be on the lookout for on the title report?
Okay, so what does the title report show the buyer? The documents and outlines the legal status of the property, if it's a residence, commercial property, industrial property, and the ownership. This includes information on the county zoning laws, property values, current tax information. Title report will also feature a full legal description of the property, which is important because when people buy property, the title companies don't insure the boundary lines. We insure the legal description. And if you want the boundary lines insured, like you buy a piece of land, let's say a 2-acre ranch with a house, you might want to get it surveyed to know exactly where the corners are of that property. But we work with the buyer on that, and that's why lets them see that. Also shows in the preliminary title report the CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, restrictions. Some of these properties, like if you go into a gated community, you're not allowed to have an RV there, but the title report will show this and prevent any mishaps after they close escrow. And another one too is people who have ham radio antennas. It'll restrict them from putting antennas up 20 foot in that neighborhood. And some people like that, some people don't like that. So at least the title report will show those in the CC&Rs in the title report.
Got it. So it's very important for the consumer, the buyer, to read what they're getting themselves into before they purchase a property, to be on the clear what they can and cannot do on a property.
Correct. Okay. And one more thing I want to bring up too. It's important because when we put in the title prelim, we put in the legal descriptions of the easements and utility easements. It also shows you, like in some of the newer tracks, they'll put the power lines in the rear of the property by the back wall. That'll be pointed out. So if you want to put a pool in, you got to know where that is so you don't dig up the utility, because that cost, if you do dig it up and didn't read the preliminary report, the homeowner is responsible for fixing those lines. So all that stuff is put it in the preliminary title report.
Perfect. And what's the difference between deed and a title?
Okay. There's several deeds. I mean, but the main deeds today that we deal with is what's the difference between a quitclaim deed and a grant deed. And this is a big issue in our industry because people don't need to understand that a deed is a legal document. It's not something you tamper with without talking to a title person like myself or talking to an attorney, because you could really screw things up. So the difference basically between a quitclaim deed and a grant deed is that a grant deed ensures the grantor, the owner, corporation, LLC, has a legal interest in the property. A quitclaim deed merely releases any potential interest in the property, but it does not give you any warranty. So that's where I would come in, or an attorney would come in. I'm a lot cheaper because it would be free. That's all I can say. So basically is that when you use a quitclaim deed, it's right at that time after they've owned the property. Now it becomes an uninsured deed because there was no title insurance done. Where that would come in cases somebody was going through a divorce and they worked it out between the two of them that one of the partners would deed their interest, quitclaim their 50% interest to the other person, and I would explain to them that they would also need an affidavit of uninsured deed, which doesn't cost any money, and at the same time they do the quitclaim in that, and then when the other person sells the property, there won't be any hiccups or any problems with that.
Got it. Okay, so it's very important for anybody who wants to change anything in the deed, whether in escrow or outside of escrow, to consult an attorney or consult a title rep to inform them the best way to do it and how to record that deed.
Correct. If it's simple, I can help them. If it's more complicated and it's involved in once they get an attorney, I'm pretty much out of the loop because an attorney has more expertise and deals with the court system. If it's prior to that, then they would contact me, and I'm happy to help them, guide them, tell them. I'll either sometimes tell them or give them some attorneys' names in the area to help them out, so they can that deals with real estate situations like this.
And who is responsible for the title insurance in general?
Who's responsible for? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Who's responsible to pay for title insurance?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so okay, now we're talking. When we talk on this situation, we're talking about where there's a new mortgage coming in. We'll say whether it's one of the banks or whatever. So on the owner's policy, which is called the owner's policy, that's where the seller transfer clear title over to the buyer. The seller pays that fee, and seller pays that fee. Now, it's not mandated or mandatory. It can be negotiable between the real estate agent and their client, but normally the seller pays that fee. Now, when they go get a loan, the lenders have their own policy that gives them additional coverage and that protects the mortgage. That one is paid by the buyer. It's usually half the fee what the seller pays, but that's usually what it is. So the owner's policy is paid by the seller. The lender's policy is paid by the buyer.
Okay. And with real estate transactions, everything's negotiable. So there is an option for the buyer to pay.
I've seen where the seller now in this market, this market is a different market. We both know sellers aren't paying for anything, but when it was a buyer's market, the seller was more than happy to give them up to 2% closing costs to pay for all that stuff. So it just depends on the market and the market time, what's going on right now. But normally on a just yes and no answer, seller pays the owner's policy, buyer pays a lender's policy.
And on an average, how much is the title insurance on an average cost for whether the buyer's paying for it or the seller's paying for it?
Well, first of all, in California, the title insurance companies are regulated by the insurance commissioner. We went through a major overhaul back in 2009. So all our title fees are posted. All the title companies is posted, and the rate is it's a schedule. So if you're buying a house, the rate can go up from anywhere from $800 to $2,000 or $3,000 depending on the price of the sale of the home. So it's a graduated scale, and it varies. But you, as a consumer, and of course the agent, have a right to know what that fee is upfront going into escrow, what the seller's going to pay, and what the buyer's going to pay.
The fees are across the board, same fees with all title company, or does it vary from company to company?
Title fees are very close to one another. We have some of the lowest fees in the industry, especially on the refi rates. We have the lowest rates on the refi rates right now. There's a special rate for those, but the fees are posted. So if my competitors, let's say for a $500,000 house, we're all going to be within probably $50, $75, most likely in most cases, somewhere in that ballpark.
And you mentioned some very important thing. Title insurance does not mean only when you purchase a property you're going to need title insurance. Even the consumers, if they're refinancing, they're going to need a title insurance, a new title insurance as well, to make sure there was nothing in between the time they purchase a property to the time they're taking on a new loan and on a new loan with another lender. Make sure everything is clean on title. So they will need a title insurance again when they purchase a property, even though if they're not in it.
True, and that's why we discounted it 40% and up, because let's say they bought the property in 2015 and now it's 2021. We're only going to have to go back to 2015 to clear everything, to make sure everything is right and there's no liens, personal liens or judgments outstanding except for the mortgage. that's easy for us to search that, and that's why we give the discount, pass the savings on to the consumer.
Got it. Got it. So basically, that would be a lesser cost than a no purchase.
Well, that's if they want to refi. They don't. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the consumer, if they go ahead and refinance from what the original loan, yes, there'll be a new fee, but not just the title. There's also escrow fees that are involved too, on top of that as well.
Okay, and in my side, like I have a lot of clients come to me for questions regarding probably issues that I'm not aware of on the title that might have happened through the process. Divorce happens, liens, somebody can put a lien on your property. And how can a consumer, without doing a sale or doing a refi, can find out if there is anything wrong with their property, or if there is any issues with their title or anything, or any liens that's put in without them knowing? Or there's a lot of divorce situations as well, and they want to see if the husband, the wife, the spouse are off that title report. How would the consumer find that out without, doing any sales or any refis?
Well, okay, so that's several points in that question you just asked. First of all, that the consumer thinks they can go to the internet and get a free property profile, and that's all there is. There's another thing called the general index, which only the title companies have access to, and attorneys. And what it is it goes into the whole court system, and we get to find it out in seconds, because what happens is we need their social security number and driver's license number. And once we get that, it works like a slot machine. Okay, so what we do is we put the driver's license and social in there. We pull the handle, and we pray that we don't have 3 7s in a row. That means that they're clean. If it hits 3 7s in a row, it lines up. There's the judgment, and we find out. The consumer needs to understand that today, because of the computer system, it's virtually almost impossible to put something under the carpet, because everybody has all this information, and the title companies have this direct access that you don't have direct access to. You could go down there and try to find it out by the address, but that's how we get it. A judgment or a child support is not recorded against the physical address. This is what consumers need to understand. It's only recorded against your social and your driver's license, which is like cloud in the air up there. And then we have access to access that cloud and bring that information down so we can see it. So I have people from time to time say, I'm a little nervous about my prospective listing. Can we find out? I said, no problem. That's why I recommend all real estate agents, when they're listing the property, is to get the statement of information filled out right there on the table, send it to me, and I'll download it for you. And that way we know right up front. Now, come on, we got to know right now, 50% of society has been divorced. If the couple's 40 years of age and they happen to say they have children, that's a red flag, because it doesn't go away. They can't pay it off. It's only the district attorney's office or the child's development. You have to submit that, and we have to. It's like a demand. It's like a payoff, and he hopefully comes back and says 0 owed, and that's what it is. So we can't take their advice. We can't take their canceled checks. It has to come from these organizations. Why? The federal government mandated that child and alimony has to be cleared by the local district attorney's office or affiliated office of the DA. So I can help people with that. I got people right now that want to do this and do that, and I say, hey, wait a second. It's not a good idea. You need to talk to the spouse or the significant other and work some things out, because you don't want to hire an attorney. It's going to run you $25,000 at least by the time you get done. And sometimes it's just better to give the other side of the person you don't care $10,000 and get it all straightened out. So that's where I would come in and help people understand that, because they'll think that nobody else will find out down the road what's going on. Now, one more thing very important on this subject. We as a title company allow people to buy property with judgments. So if you do have a child support or you have a unpaid lawsuit, let's say it's $10,000, you bashed your neighbor's car in and they got a judgment against you, but you still want to buy a house. Well, we're going to allow you to buy a house. We're going to put on a Schedule B notification that you have to take care of that. Now, when you try to refinance or you try to sell the home, now you're going to have to pay it. Okay. So we allow you to get into the house, but you're going to have to take care of that issue either when you do a refi or sell the property.
Got it. And there is issues sometimes that comes on title that the consumers think it's a big deal, but we've seen it that it can be taken out of title with simple my dog is barking. with simple kind of like you mentioned, having a attorney letter or having some kind of receipts that these issues have been taken care of, and it can be a simple fix to get that whatever issue off of title.
And that's a great comment and observation, because here's the thing. I can do so much preventative maintenance and so much saving of money to the consumer when they have a personal situation that happens. And we can talk about it and say, hey, this is probably the best way. Sometimes I can't do anything. You're going to have to use the court system to take care of it. But a lot of times I can prevent, certain things. Another thing that people need to understand too, they have children, they have family members that if they get arrested and they put their house up as bond, that is like a mortgage. And so that bond doesn't just get taken off because you want to sell your house. You got to talk to the bonding company and say, how can we take care of this? Now, sometimes they'll go ahead and release it off that house for sale and they'll put it on your new house. But again, these are things you got to understand, because everybody gets a first deed of trust, but now here you got a bond, a company that has a bond against your house because you're trying to help somebody out in your family, and that can become an issue too. But that we can find that out. I can find that that's been recorded against the property to help you up, you and your agent up front, like Rima, because she knows how to do this, and get it taken care of.
And to piggyback on that issue, I've seen it too. Like if you're selling a property, they might let go of that lien or whatever that issue is, and if you have a secondary house, they put it on the secondary house and they let you get that home sold that you're selling.
Exactly.
So you're not going to get away with it until you get this issue fixed somehow, some way.
That's right. And I've even seen IRS do that. They say there wasn't enough equity, and I've seen the IRS actually do that too. Where they'll do a workout plan. They'll say you owe them 50 grand. They'll take 25 now, and they'll put the lien against the next house, because there was a divorce involved. I mean, a lot of these things can be resolved, and if we catch them at the beginning or before they go into escrow, we can work around it.
And speaking of the beginning and catching the issues early on, how long does it take from me calling you, I need title report on 123 Elm Street, till you getting that report to me to see, so we can address any issues?
That's a good question. Prelim can be anywhere. If it's recently owned property, we say in the last 10 years, prelim can be anywhere from 1 day to 3 days. But there's a big but, and the but is this: if I don't have the statement of information, I can't tell you what the seller has. I've got to have. I can get you the prelim, and that's going to give you what we talked earlier, like the easements, about the property, CC&Rs, taxes owed, not owed, but it does not specifically identify this owner of the property, and I've got to have that statement of information in. It's
a preliminary information till we get that.
They go together, right? And another, let people know this: we're a heavily bonded. Title insurance companies are, very big companies. They're in the top. Many of us are in the top Fortune 500 companies. Your information doesn't go anywhere past us. So you don't have to worry about that. Because I don't want to give you this, give you that. Well, the problem is we under California state law, it says right in the prelim, we cannot close the transaction unless we have a statement of information. So that's how it works. So.
And one more question. With new build, it's the same thing. You need title insurance. You're not going to get away with getting title insurance even on new build.
You mean like if you build your own house?
New construction.
You mean on like a new tract home?
Yes.
Yes, that's very interesting because many times in a new tract home, there's even heavier insurance involvement there because the builder who builds the house has to indemnify the title company in case there's any mechanics liens. Let's say they put the lawns in and the fences in, and there's a dispute, and they don't pay them. Well, that the contractor files a mechanics lien against the property, and there it is. So what the title companies will do, because they trust the builder, they'll allow them to go ahead and clean that off the title policy and go forward. The good news to the consumer is they don't have to worry about it because the title company will have to pay that or get this resolved one way or another.
And what about somebody who's building their own property?
Okay, if you're building your own property and if you're doing it cash out of pocket, let's use that example, and you're not working up front with the title company, you're going to have issues because when you get a buyer to build that, to buy that home, we're going to require probably about 3 months because you're not going to be able to be indemnified because most likely you didn't get releases from all your subs going into that house. So I highly recommend that you talk to your title company before you break ground. That includes you going to Home Depot and having them drop in lumber on that piece, on that lot, because once you do that, you broke priority, which means that a mechanics lien period starts right then and there if you don't pay the bill at Home Depot. So there's all these different components. I've done literally hundreds of owner built, what do you call it? Speculation to build a house for somebody out there in for a consumer. So I could tell you where banks who do construction loans, I can help you with all that stuff. But that's a very touchy situation for an individual to do that unless you do it properly and you want to get paid.
Got it. And what about raw land? Same thing, right? We need title insurance for raw land.
Raw land, banks don't normally touch it. You usually have to go to a hard money lender or the seller. Call the seller carryback. And the seller carryback, I can show you how to do that. I can show the consumer, the seller. I call it the 33rd and the third. And basically what people do today, because they can't get bank financing, seller asks for 33% down, carries the note for up to 10 years, depending on what situation, 3 to 10 years. And the buyer pays the seller, and then when they pay them off, they get a reconveyance, and they can now apply for a construction loan. A lot of times they can apply for a construction loan after they buy the lot. It just depends on the appraised value of the lot.
Got it. Awesome. Well, Frank, thank you so much. Amazing, valuable information today. And if somebody wants to reach you regarding title needs, title issues, or any of your services, what's the best email address and best phone number for you?
Okay, the easiest way to get a hold of me is you'll never have to write it down. Just go in the computer, put in frankdonato.com, FRANKDONATO, no dots, .com, and my page will come up, has all my phone numbers, has my email addresses, and it shows you my background as well.
Awesome. Well, Frank, thank you so much for all your help and everything you do for the community and for all of us real estate agents and our clients. We appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you so much. Anything you want to add before we end this?
Yeah, I'd like to say this. I've been working with Rima for over 10 years, and to watch her grow the way she grew in the real estate is a pleasure to work with her. Very professional, just a great person to work with. So anybody that uses her is going to be in good hands.
Well, I feel the same, Frank. I wasn't expecting that, but thank you so much.
Okay.
And we'll talk soon. Thank you. Have
Okay,
a great
bye-bye.
weekend.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.